Martin trying to end it with a flare here to punch out Cabbage and grab a win. Another one here in Houston, the 2-2. He struck him out. Blew it right by him. And that's the ball game and the series. The Red Sox win it by a final of 4-1. They take the last two in the series to win here in Houston. And it's a winning trip. The Red Sox go 4-3.
Yeah, props to Criswell, did a nice job. But this bullpen the last two nights, 8 1/3 scoreless. Absolutely fantastic. You've been looking for that for a while. And you got to give them the last two wins.
That's a big trip for the Boston Red Sox.
Well, we said this last night when Jared Carabas is here. We've enhanced the production a little bit. Added some Alex Cora sound. It's a good 24 hours for the Red Sox, culminating at about 5 o'clock yesterday evening. They take the final two games of the series against the Houston Astros. This is where we're going to start tonight on the Baseball Hour. 617-779-0985. Matt McCarthy is alongside again, doing extra duty purely out of the goodness of his heart.
I like you, Mazz. You're a good enough guy, and again, I never get to see you on Fridays. I miss you, so I want to stick around.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt, and likewise. Now, that said, we are going to ridicule you a little bit.
That's why I'm here. I know my role here, Mazz.
Sort of part of the deal.
Just take a beating on behalf of the station. That's me.
So I find myself in the very unusual, borderline uncomfortable position of having to actually celebrate the Red Sox for their feats in the last, let's call it 2 days.
I don't like this. Where's
No,
Mazz
you shouldn't like it. It's not going to last long either. So for those of you out there, let me tell you, enjoy it, because in all probability it will not last. But here's my point. And really, honestly, I feel this way primarily. People don't get it. When the Red Sox are good, I tell you to keep it in your pants, because there's still a lot of baseball to be played. Because when you get to the middle and end of August and then September and hopefully October, everything can be rewritten. Everything. So when you get all geeked up about the 2013 Red Sox or the 2018 Red Sox, and in the latter case, rightfully so, I will tell you, keep it in your pants, because when you get to October, if you lose, it all gets undone. So it's all about the ending. Maybe that's the best way for me to explain it to people in the future. For me, it's all about the ending. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's a cliche. But with regard to baseball, it's also true. And you know what happens when you get to the final 6 weeks? And as much as the trading deadline, by the way, and I'm getting on a tangent here a little bit, but bear with me. As much as the trading deadline is the end of July, I learned many years ago that you sort of have to approach it as a process, in that the trading deadline happens, the new guys come. It takes a couple of weeks for everything to get sorted out. Pitchers get added to the bullpen or the rotation. New assignments get doled out. The lineup maybe changes a little bit. All this stuff happens, let alone with injuries and then potentially September call-ups, what have you. So the season, they say, goes in thirds. You play the first two. You use the next two to assess your weaknesses and make deals, and then you sprint to the finish. That's generally how I believe it's done. So in the case of the Red Sox, given where they were in the standings, I knew it wasn't over. It's just that the math doesn't work. There's too much time left. I was trying to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that. And listen, so the point being, when you think they suck and they're out of it, more often than not, I'm probably going to tell you the opposite. When you think they're great and they're going to win the World Series, I'm going to tell you it's not over yet. Let's see what happens. But now it's a sprint. This is when it gets good. This is when baseball gets good, McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
Because every game matters now. So as much as people want to say, well, had they not blown that lead in April, they'd have been in the playoffs. Yeah, true, but we all know how it works. It's like the final 2 minutes of a basketball game. If you didn't shoot for 5 for 20 in the first quarter, you would have won the game. Yeah, but you were still within 2 with 4 minutes to go. And you had to execute down the stretch. Nut cutting time. That's the good stuff. This is when every pitch matters, every at-bat matters, every game matters, everything. Every ground ball, every missed double play, every pop-up on the right field line that Tristan Casas misjudges, whatever it is, And I'm talking about the play from the other night for those who didn't see it when he had to run behind first base. They all count. They all count, every one of them. So the Red Sox picked up a game and a half in the span of 24 hours. The Twins and the Royals gained that half game back last night. Red Sox are 3.5 behind. It's a race to the finish. And the Twins and the Royals have to play one another head-to-head, which means in that series, one of them is going to lose at least twice. At least twice. If the Red Sox take care of business from here on out, they can absolutely, positively be in the playoffs. And for those of you who wanted to tank and get a high draft pick and think that that's the way to rebuild, I think you're out of your minds. This, again, is the good stuff. So this will be valuable. This whole experience will be valuable for Ceddanne Rafaela. It'll be valuable for Jaron Duran, Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, and maybe even someone who might get called up in the month of September to join the roster. There is benefit in this. And, again, it should be tooth and nail the rest of the way because I don't think any one of these teams is good enough to pull way ahead of the others. Now, that said, Matt McCarthy, a couple of nights ago, after the Red Sox blew a game against the Houston Astros, we had this show on Tuesday night. It was a bad loss. If you want to be critical of the Red Sox, the one thing you should say is they should have swept the series. Because after that loss on Monday, McCarthy was with me here on Tuesday. Jimmy Stewart, what did the exchange go like? 38 games remaining, I believe it is. They have played 124 games. They have 38 left. They are 4 back in the loss column. Matt McCarthy, is it over?
Oh, yeah. It's over, Mazz. This thing's done. And it's not really about last night. It's about this last week and the last month. You said earlier on the program that, last night was a winnable game. And that's why you still believe that maybe they just might not be done because, hey, it was a winnable game. And there have been a number of winnable games in the last week. There have been a hell of a lot of winnable games over the last month that the Red Sox have lost going back to the All-Star break. In fact, that's kind of been the story with this team, Mazz. Losing winnable games. That's why I say they're done. Because the bullpen obviously is a mess. The starting pitching has been better, but I still don't know if it's going to hold up over the course of the next, 38 games. The offense can hit. They can hit. The lineup's pretty good, but they just continue to find ways to lose games, and it's become a trend. It's become a problem. This is not a one-week thing. This is not a one-series thing. This is a second-half thing for the Red Sox. It goes all the way back to the All-Star break. They have not been the same team coming out of the break. They're done. They're cooked. 12 blown saves, Mazz, since the All-Star break. 12. I'm sorry. That's not an accident. That's horrendous. They're done.
Does the witness wish to recant his testimony?
Once again, I think that was Mark Dondero you had on the program on Tuesday night. I have no idea who that was. No, listen, I stand by a lot of what I said there, Mazz, which is I don't think, I've seen this team play since the All-Star break, and they have consistently struggled to close out games. The difference between Tuesday night and now is they had 2 games that they needed to close out, and they closed them out. Which is, it's encouraging and you name it. And Luis Garcia was way better last night. And that's the one thing I really take away from this. Like, if you can get more from Garcia, maybe that changes things a little bit. But it does not change the larger sample size that I've seen over the course of the last month plus, which is that the Red Sox pitching just isn't good enough. Starting pitching starting to get a little bit better. I still worry about the bullpen. Slayton comes back, maybe that changes things. Martin has been pretty good. Maybe you get Hendricks in. Maybe, Garcia, pitches better down the stretch. I just worry that they cost themselves a trip to the playoffs between the All-Star break and now. They're going to fight. I said that the other night, Mazz. They're going to fight. They're not going to give this up. I just don't think they have enough pitching between now and the end of the year to make the playoffs. I stand by that.
Okay, so what will it take for you to change your mind? Because they're still behind. Like, if they were to pull into a tie for the wild card spot, would you change your mind?
Depends.
Or do you think it's ultimately the final verdict that will decide it and that's it?
So it's both of those things, right? I mean, they need to get a little bit closer, but I also need to I need to see the bullpen stabilize. The bullpen over the last 5 games statistically has been better. I would point to the last 2 games in particular where it has really stood out to me like the eye test. Like, wow, this is significantly better than what I've seen. So I need to see that continue. I need to see a guy like Garcia continue to emerge, or I need to see Slayton come back and look the way he did before he got hurt. Like, I need to see things that make me say, okay, this pitching staff is stabilized. And then they also need to get within striking distance, a little closer than 3.5. Like, both of those things need to happen for me to recant on my take from Tuesday night.
Okay, and so this is a question also for the fan base, because I can't tell you how many of you have thrown it in my face in those years where the Red Sox have had comfortable leads in August and September, and we're going to make the playoffs. Yeah, Mazz, when are you going to come around? Yeah, when are you going to believe? Huh, Mazz? Huh? That's all you did was throw it in my face over and over and over again. And I told you, it's about the finish. It's about what happens at the end. Now they are chasing, albeit hanging in there. Hanging in there. I think they're in it. You telling me they're going to lose?
Yeah, actually I am.
So, and I'm not just talking about you, McCarthy.
At least I'm consistent.
I'm talking about fans too. I just want to know what, in fact, I'll ask them the same question I'm asking you. What needs to happen for you to all of a sudden say, this is a fight? That's really all I'm looking for. I'm not telling you they're going to win anything, but how many people will admit this is a fight? Because I think that this thing between the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Royals is going down to the wire. My father said something to me yesterday. Not that you care what my father says to me.
I do care what
my
Mr.
father
Mazz
said something in the car. Oh, the Yankees lost the other. I'm like, who cares about the Yankees? The Yankees are out. They're out. The Yankees have nothing to do with it. You're not going to catch the Yankees. Well, you never know, he says. I disagree. I don't think they're catching the Yankees.
Tony, can I answer your question?
They're 7 back. Yes.
Can I answer your question of what would make me really buy in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in September, the Red Sox have a stretch against the Orioles, the Yankees, and the Rays, and the Twins. If they win, what's the math here? 13. If they win 10 out of those 13 games, I'm in.
Jimmy, they're not going to win 10 out of 13 against those teams.
I'm just telling you, that would make me believe.
At what point in the schedule are those games?
September 9th is when it starts. September 9th to September 22nd.
Okay.
Heads into the final week of the year. Final week begins after that stretch against the Twins. The Twins is the Sunday before the last Sunday of the year.
Well, that's convenient. You can wait until they're at the finish line to make your decision.
100%. I can be a Greg Bedard of baseball in this.
Jimmy, I need a take today. What's happened to you? Shame, shame, shame.
So
And you've become baseball Barth McCarthy.
So again,
right.
But this is what I want to know. Like if some people say, well, if they actually pull into a tie, then all of a sudden it's literally a dead heat. From that point forward, whoever wins the most games. If they pull into a tie, I'll believe. Or it's got to be a race in September for me to believe. Again, really all I'm asking you is to believe that it's a fight, that it's a competition, and that it's a race. I think it already is.
McCarthy, just for the record, Mazz didn't believe until in the 2013 Red Sox until they caught the final out. So there's that.
No, trust me, I remember that. I think we all do.
I still hear about it. I still take grief about it.
You're welcome.
Take jail.
So that's the question. What will it take for you to look at them and say, you know what? They're actually in this thing.
Bullpen.
Because I don't think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of you believe that. I don't think you believe that they're really in it, and they are. And I actually think there's some very promising signs and indicators tilting in their direction at the moment, which we'll get to when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
America's best baseball banter. The Baseball Hour with Tony Mazz on the Sports Hub.
There's a high fly ball right field way up there. That's headed out. That baby's gone into the second deck. David Hamilton, number 8. Red Sox with some added breathing room now, and it is 4-1 in Houston.
Exactly where Costas hit the ball last night. I'm going to guess it's going to be 392 feet because it was a row behind it. That's my guess.
He got some sneaky pop. I mean, this guy can drive the baseball once in a while. I mean, this is 8th home run of the year.
That was an insurance run by David Hamilton last night. We played that for you then. I like the music from the Broadway musical Hamilton. I've gotten a little more into theater, not to give you that whole thing, but my son likes the stage.
It's great.
It's a great show for those who haven't seen it. And the music is outstanding. Outstanding for any age group. It's absolutely out of this world, but that is neither here nor there. David Hamilton, in a lot of ways, exemplary of what the Red Sox are. You know, he's a Chaim Bloom guy. Acquired him in a trade. 26 years old, sort of I don't want to call him a journeyman minor leaguer. He's not a prospect. He's too old to be a prospect. But he is a 4A player who's probably reaching his peak years, now playing at the best of his ability, so you can get a couple of good major league years out of him. Maybe more than that. Maybe he's an everyday player. Maybe he's a platoon guy. He's probably more of a platoon, but he can run. He's got a little bit of power, as Lou Merlone said. He's given him something. Ceddanne Rafael as a rookie has given them something. They have a lot of guys who have sort of specialized skills. And who was it that said earlier, was it you who gave that stat or Murray did, that when Hamilton or Rafaela has homered this year, the Red Sox are 20-0?
Yeah, it was Murray, and I can totally believe that. Role players playing above their ability, right, or impacting the game above the level of a role player, and 2 spark plug guys in Hamilton and Rafaela makes total sense. Like, when you get power from them, which is a bonus for both, Hamilton more so than Rafaela, I can totally see how it completely changes the game for the Red Sox.
Those guys hit at the bottom of the lineup. You get production out of the bottom of the lineup, you're going to win. Now, can they keep it up? Like individually, you would say, well, no, you can't rely on David Hamilton. You can't rely on Ceddanne Rafaela. At least not yet, on Rafaela's case. But if you put both of them together, well, they have 20 home runs and 80 RBI. And all of a sudden you look at it and go, well, they're each of them might be half of an everyday big leaguer at this stage. But you put them together and you get yourself a full big leaguer. And I think that's effectively what the Red Sox are. There are a lot of half players. Cora's got to mix and match. This is why it works in Tampa Bay. It's also why they don't win championships, because you need more full players than half players. But given what the Red Sox have gone through over the last 4 or 5 years, the playoffs are a step in the right direction, and there's help on the way in theory in the minor leagues. Let's see what happens.
Real quick, though, Mazz, on a guy like Hamilton,
yeah,
he is a bench player on a championship team.
Correct.
Because he can run. You know, when he's hot at the plate, he's not a nothing at the plate, but he's gone through some hot stretches this year. He was hot, then he wasn't. Now he's, feels like he's, contributing a little bit more offensively. But the problem is they just have so many of those guys.
Bingo.
So they need to eventually, this offseason is all going to be about picking the guy to keep and trading the 2 other. And putting a guy like David Hamilton in the role that he should be in, which is your middle infield guy off the bench, and you're going to need a right-handed bat to go somewhere else to pair with him.
Yeah, Matt, it's okay to have some platoon players on the roster.
Of course.
It's okay. You just can't have a whole roster of them.
Which has been their approach for a while.
Because then you get it. And by the way, the pitching staff is similar. Lefty specialist, righty specialist. You get a mix and match in the late innings. And once you do it that way, you know what happens? You get into the World Series with Blake Snell on the mound, throwing a great game, and you pull him in the 6th inning because you got to go to a left-righty matchup, and you just can't see the forest through the trees. You should have left Blake Snell in the game, and you cost yourself the World Series. While the other team, the Dodgers, has a full-time, everyday big league all-star at 6 positions on the field, and they win the championship. And there are other – so again, it's okay to have a spot or 2 where you're mixing and matching. If you do it at too many, you have trouble matching up against the good teams and you lose.
Real quick, I think championship teams have one true platoon position plus catcher.
Yeah, I would say that's something like that. Yeah, something like that. And in a rare case, you might have two, but it doesn't usually go beyond that. You have 7 regulars in your lineup. I mean, that's sort of how I've always thought about it, is 7 regulars. Mm-hmm. And then the catcher might be 1. Exactly what you're saying. Same thing. I just wanted to put it in my own words, Matt, is what it comes down to. John in Hampton. John, what do you got?
Hey, guys, yeah, one thing about Hamilton, though, is like he kind of stinks in the field. He's costed the Red Sox like 2 or 3 games by making errors. And the thing is, I want to say to McCarthy is, like, you were so positive all year, and I was, like, on your boat. Now, like 5 games ago, you've completely got off the Red Sox. Mm-hmm. So looking back at the Red Sox after the All-Star break, they probably had the hardest schedule in the league. And if you look at Kansas City Royals, they were the White Sox. They won like 16-0. They have like, so what I'm saying is then today, thank God, they have a day off. And then tomorrow they got to play the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are in the playoffs right now. So they're a tough team. And then they have other teams.
John, before you go on, let me ask you a question. Do you think you're going to get in the playoffs without beating anybody good?
Well, the thing is that they've been playing real good teams after they've been playing everybody good, Mazz.
Okay, but that wasn't the question. Don't you think you're going to have to?
Tough.
Okay, don't you think you're going to have to beat good teams to get into the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but the thing is, unfortunately, they're not playing. Like teams like the White Sox or other, teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I got you. I got you.
They're playing all tough series, and then they got to play the Diamondbacks, and then.
Okay, I got you. So what, we're going to lament the fact that you have to face good competition at some point along the way? Wouldn't the opposite also be true, that they went through stretches? When they got hot in the first half, you know what they were playing?
Garbage. Dog food.
Garbage. Did you complain about the schedule then? You're going to have to play everybody at some point. You're going to have to play everyone. And just for the sake of accuracy, Minnesota and Kansas City are both 12-1 against the White Sox. And they're done with those games. Kansas City's schedule is going to get tougher coming up.
The Red Sox schedule gets easier.
Okay, so it all balances out for the most part. I mean, the division schedule doesn't. It's tough to make up those White Sox games. But if you want to eliminate the White Sox and say the Red Sox have played better against the field than Kansas City or Minnesota, fine. No problem. You get 37 games still to make that up. If you can make it up, you get in. I think it's pretty clear. So again, some years you're going to have the Red Sox for years had lambs in the division. The Orioles sucked. The Rays sucked for a long, long time. You had lambs in your division too. So now you are the lamb, or you have been the lamb. Maybe you're not quite the lamb this year, but you've been the one that everybody's been beating up on. Don't look now. When you have to ask who the tomato can is, you're the tomato can. So fine. Win the games, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and you're in. And by the way, they just went 4-3 on the road against Baltimore and Houston. Mm-hmm. So take 2 out of 3 against Arizona. Like, it's not as if it's impossible. If you're a playoff team, you can do that.
No doubt. It's more about the bullpen and what I saw over this last month, Mazz, than it was the schedule. Yes, I fully acknowledge it's been a tough stretch for the Red Sox. And we can all agree you're not going to look as good. You're not going to win as many games if you go through a tough month of the season. I think we all understand that. It's not the fact that they lost games the way they were losing games that was concerning to me. And that's why on Tuesday I said they're out. And then Tuesday night and Wednesday night, they won games that you have to win to make the playoffs. They showed me a little something, but I'm still not ready to take the nail out yet.
Yeah, and and Matt, listen, I'm not telling you that you're wrong about the bullpen or anything else. What I'm saying is that in short spans, players and teams get hot.
Sure.
And it's now a sprint. So I made a comparison to 2003 earlier. The 2003 Red Sox could hit. They could score. They were better than this team by a long shot. I think they won 95 games that year.
They were good. Yeah.
Their offense was prolific. I think they set a major league record for slugging percentage by a team that season.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Miller won the batting title, and he was batting 8th that year.
Okay, so the 2003 team could hit. Their bullpen was a train wreck. It sucked through the regular season.
I thought Byung-Hyun Kim was good. I thought that was a good trade, yeah.
And he was good during the regular season. When they got into the playoffs, so all of a sudden, you know what happened? The bullpen clicked.
Timlin, Williamson,
Embry.
Embry.
All of a sudden, it clicked. And they got hot. And they should have gone to the World Series. We all know how that one turned out.
They just trusted the bullpen.
Now, again, I'm not telling you this team is perfectly analogous to that team because it's not, but you get the idea. It can change for a few weeks, and when it does, everything can change at this time of year. 3 weeks in May, maybe not. 3 weeks in August and September, it can. McCarthy's got your headlines. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, 2 players whom each, or 1 player each that we have concerns about, Matt and I. We'll tell you who they are when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
His fatigue starting to become a factor a little bit. He went just 4 innings at Fenway. His first start against the Red Sox earlier this month. Swing and a drive. Way downtown. Watch this baby go into the second deck.
Wow. Second deck it was. Immediately Tristan knew it was gone. Bat went down and a little bit of a walk to the grass. And well-deserved right now. Those are, so far, we've seen 3 rocket ships. All different styles.
Well, that slider, another hanging slider. Now, Costas has come back. And the single stroke has been there. He's controlled the zone. And it was like, just give him a little bit of time to get comfortable. And here we are. Last night, he had a tough time seeing the ball from Kikuchi. He was talking about maybe hiding a little bit from him. But a little hanging slider here. And for a guy sitting here with a 2.89 ERA, 5th in all of baseball, they just put a 3 spot on him right out of the gate.
Tristan Casas, big home run a couple of nights ago. I admit I pick on Casas. He has some tendencies that I would call selfish, not unusual in baseball. Worried mostly about himself. Again, not unusual in the world. I want to get to him. I also want to get to Marcelo Meyer, which Matt McCarthy referenced earlier during Felger and Mazz. I want to touch on him too as well, because there are 2 guys we're talking about. We'll do that this segment along with your phone calls. Matt is in Manchester. Matt, what do you got? Matt, you got to roll down the window or whatever, dude. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Roll up the window.
Yeah, I feel like we're underestimating how big this weekend and early next week is. I mean, you figure the Red Sox and Royals both have 5 games in the next 3 days. Red Sox playing Diamondbacks, Royals playing Phillies, and then they play the Guardians. I mean, we could wake up Tuesday morning, the Red Sox could be ahead of the Royals. What do you guys think?
Matt, I think that's true of every 5 days at this time of year. I don't know why these 5 days are any different. So you're talking about the competition. I think you just had that. I mean, again, in 24 hours, think of how those days went. Monday night, the Red Sox blow a lead in the 9th inning against the Astros. Kansas City wins again. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you're 4.5 out.
Right, and some people called them dead. Yes, that's right.
You lose the next 2. Kansas City wins the next 2. It's 6.5, and it might really be over. Okay, like there is a certain breaking point or tipping point with that margin where you say now it might not be attainable. You get to 6 or 7 games; those are big numbers. Those are hard to make up. 3 or 4, you're teetering a little, but it's doable. So, what happened in those 24 hours? The Red Sox won twice. The Royals lost. The Twins lost. They picked up a game and a half. Now, the Twins in Kansas City regained a half game last night because the Red Sox didn't play at night. They played during the day. But you get the idea. It can change fast. Yes, you need to win as many as you can from here on out. It's a sprint. There's no gray area anymore. Let me take another call, Matt. Whoa. Bob in Nashville. Bob, what do you got?
Hey, guys, great show. Hey, Bresler was on the radio this morning saying that there's a good chance Story might come back. And obviously we could use a right-handed bat, but if he does, given the rotation we've had at second, lack of stability, and the defense of Raphael is giving it short, what are the chances they put Story at second base?
Bob, who did you say said that this morning?
Craig Breslow on your competition.
Yeah. Okay. No, look, there's been talk of, thank you. There's been talk of Story coming back, period. I would not put Story at second base. I'd put him at shortstop. He's your best shortstop. And I would put Rafaela back in center field and leave him there permanently. So, you don't want him back in the lineup at all, right? You're down on Story?
I'm so down on Story. I would take Story back if you're going to use him kind of in a platoon situation or use him, for his defense. But I don't want him having big at-bats for this team. The only thing that Trevor Story brings to you, Mazz, is good defense up the middle, which, by the way, matters. But I just would get worried that they would treat him like he's the Trevor Story of old and treat him like he's one of the most important players on the team, which they certainly did at the beginning of the year. They were talking about him like he was this great leader and this captain. Trevor Story hasn't hit in years, and he's coming off a significant injury, and I would worry that he would kind of hold the team back while he tries to get his footing at the big league level when every single game matters. I know the glove plays. I know he can do that. He could do that in his sleep. You want to put him out there at shortstop as a defensive replacement or treat him, like he's kind of a part-time player, I'm fine with that. I cannot have Trevor Story playing every single day. I need to use him situationally because in the end, Mazz, he's kind of trending towards becoming a situational player anyway.
And what
he's
do you think
not a good enough hitter.
What do you think the chances are that they'll do that?
0.0.
Okay. So that's where I am, and I don't totally disagree with your argument. 0 chance. There's no way they'll take a veteran guy they've given $140 million to and turn him into a platoon player.
So in some ways, I'd almost not rather have him back at all because I worry about him hurting the team.
So you then hope for a setback. He has an injury setback and he can't play.
I would wish no ill on anybody. I would just say that maybe he decides maybe I'm pushing this too much. I want to be ready to go for next year. Maybe they can have that conversation with him. I worry about Story actively hurting the team because there's only one true way to use him, and I'm not convinced they'd use him that way.
Dalton in a car also wants to talk about, hit the wrong button. Dalton, you there?
Yeah, you got me?
Yeah, also wants to talk about Trevor Story. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bob kind of had the same kind of question as I did. But my question is, do we think that Trevor Story can actually make a meaningful impact down the stretch for this team, or is that kind of a long shot we're going to hold out for next year kind of thing?
Okay, Matt, what do you think?
By fielding the baseball? Yeah, he can help you. You can always use guys who can catch the baseball. I do not think he can do that at the plate. He has not shown that consistently in years now, particularly coming off another serious injury. You worry about timing. Like, Mazz, I saw Trevor Story come back from his injury last year, and he was completely and totally lost at the plate. You want to put him at short? Put Rafael at second for a few innings, and then if you're down, you take Story out of the game and put Rafael at short, fine. You want to put him in the game in late game situations when you're up and you want to get your best defensive lineup, which is Story at short, Rafael at second, Duran in center. Yeah, go for it. That's fine. But you got to treat him that way, and they probably won't.
So, look, the idea of hitting for him against some right-handers in a big spot, I'm not against. He hit 197 against right-handed pitching last year. And
it was that high?
I know, really. So I wonder if Cora has the balls to do it. If anyone has the balls to do it, I think Cora would. I don't know if he'd do it to Story, or if he did, he might talk to him first. I don't know. That's a toughie.
Cora got his hush money. He'll do whatever Breslow says now.
Yeah, probably.
And he'll defer to the veteran. Remember Hernandez last year? He wouldn't take him off a shortstop, even though he's throwing it into the stands.
Yeah, I would worry about that, particularly given the way they talked about Story and his importance to the team. I mean, Mazz, they almost treated him like he was the captain of the team. When he comes back, they're just going to give him the job.
I mean, Cora's compromised at this point. I can't trust him.
You know what they'll do? Because he hasn't played, they will give him some days off. They'll selectively pick those against right-handed starters that are a tough matchup, and then they'll use him for defense in the late innings. Something like that.
And you know what? I'm fine with that.
Something like that. You know what I mean? They'll protect him a little bit.
If you do that, if you're picking your spots with Story, that's fine.
And they'll say it's for his health. We played a Casas highlight there for you coming back from break. And I asked Jared Carabas last night whether Tristan Casas is liked by teammates, because I thought Casas, frankly, spent too much time in the minor leagues when they needed him to come back with the team in the race. To me, that is like the first thing you do to alienate teammates is, take too long to come back from an injury. Here's what Jared Carabas said in that exchange.
It's not the same as Manny, right? Like Manny had antics where they put up with it because you knew he was going to hit 40 home runs, driving 120 and hit 300. With Casas, you haven't had that type of track record in the big leagues yet to get that pass. So I think Cora was probably a little aggravated when he's down in Worcester, he's rehabbing, he's playing in games, and then you've got the media asking, how do you feel? And he's saying, well, it felt like I got shot with a gun and stabbed, and like Cora's like, enough with that. Enough with that. I think if you got to a certain point where he's putting up Raffy-type offensive numbers over the course of 5-6 years, say whatever you want, I guess, if you're going to go out there and do that. He hasn't done that yet. But overall, yes, I do think he's well-liked.
Okay, so again, I just find things about Tristan Casas that rub me the wrong way. I think little things that you have to watch if you are a fan and keep track of over time, because they can add up, and then the player becomes, or the team becomes disenchanted with the player, and the next thing you know, he's on the trade market. You have a similar feeling about a guy in their minor league system that projects to be a big part of their future.
I just worry Marcelo Meyer's overhyped. And I've felt this way for a long time. And now this injury, this lingering injury that's going on with his hip, not only concerns me, I guess, from a physical standpoint, because he missed the end of last year with his shoulder problem, so didn't finish the year. Now, it doesn't sound like he's going to finish this year, Mazz, in Worcester. They called up Christian Campbell, who's now going to play at Worcester, because I don't think Meyer's going to be back, or, who knows. But Campbell going up would indicate that Meyer's injury is going to keep him out for a little while. I worry about durability, and I also worry about compete with this guy. Like, you get called up to Worcester and then you go back on the IL. I'm starting to wonder if the Red Sox are thinking he should play through things. I've heard a little buzz on this, so it's just something to watch. What's Marcelo Meyer's compete level like? Jared Carrabis was in a few weeks ago on a week you were not here. Surprising in the summer of Mazz that you weren't here. And he said, the guy I'm not trading is Roman Anthony because I just think he gets it. I think he's competitive. And I said, what does that mean about Marcelo Meyer? You're not saying the same things about him. Like, we know the math. The big three, in the end, it's not going to be the big three. The chances of all three of these guys hitting are not great. One of them is probably going to disappoint you somewhere along the way. If I had to bet today, it's going to be Marcelo Meyer, just based on injury, based on compete level a little bit. California kid, maybe is a little bit too cool for school. I don't know. I just worry about Marcelo Meyer, and you should too. Like, don't buy into the hype just because 3 years ago they said he was going to be great.
And for those of you who don't know, Matt has, I would say, a history with the minor league system.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for the Portland Sea Dogs. I spent time in the Red Sox minor league system. I probably come across like a guy who hates minor leaguers and hates prospects. No, it's just because I've lived it. I actually love it, but I know what the reality is. I'd like to think I know what the reality is, Mazz. Most of these guys won't be able to hack it. Really. It's just the way it is. So a guy like Meyer, I don't know. I'm always looking for the bad signs. And that's what you should do with prospects. You should be excited. Meyer's a blue chip guy. Anthony's a blue chip guy. Teal's a blue chip guy. But you should always be looking for the reasons why it won't work out. You should always look at these things skeptically. I haven't found those reasons with Anthony. I haven't found those reasons with Teal. I generally start to find those things with Meyer, so just something to keep an eye on.
Okay, I have another question for you about Marcelo Meyer, but before we even get to that, let me just do the Between the Lines baseball report brought to you by Corona, the official cerveza of Major League Baseball. What to watch out for during this weekend's games. Enjoy the finer life of sports with Corona. Must be 21 plus. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer, imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. The Between the Lines report concerns the Arizona Diamondbacks. I looked this up earlier. Did you know? First of all, Arizona is one of the hottest teams in the game. Okay, you should absolutely take this series seriously. They were in the World Series last year, started out kind of spinning their wheels a little bit for the first part of the year. They have found their stride. They're going to be in the playoffs. And Arizona, the number one offense in the major leagues. Number one in runs scored and OPS. So Alex Cora talked about the Arizona athleticism a day ago. I would say keep track of everything with the Diamondbacks. They can run a little bit. Yep. They can hit a little bit. They can hit it out of the ballpark. They can, run the bases, hit for average. It's a good offense.
You're going to see two of their better pitchers in this series, too. Another thing to keep an eye out.
It's a real opponent. It's a real series. And a very versatile team. Now, back to Marcelo Meyer. Christian Campbell, is that right?
Yes.
Christian Campbell, whom I really haven't seen much of, you said got promoted to AAA to replace Meyer.
Yes.
Who's on the injured list. Mm-hmm. Campbell hits right-handed, right?
He does.
He's a shortstop, right?
Middle infielder, but I think he's probably going to be a second baseman.
Second base.
Yes. Now, they've been moving him between short, second, center field. They're kind of trying to find his position. I think he's probably a second baseman.
Okay, so the fact that he's at AAA and he just got promoted to AA not too long ago, a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I mean he's
ripped it up.
They would call it a rocket guy, helium with Christian Campbell.
Okay, and so I guess what I'm getting at is this: is there any chance this is a little tweak to Marcelo Meyer? Like, okay, you don't want to play or you don't want to fight through something. We got to find out if this other kid can play, and maybe this makes Marcelo Meyer expendable. Maybe I'm talking on my ass. I'm asking you.
Yeah, I like that theory because if in Worcester right now they've got Mydroth, they've got Von Grissom who's getting at bats down there
and sucking.
Right, but they invested in him, so he's going to get at bats. The point being is that they would not have called up Christian Campbell if there was nowhere for him to play and there was no way for him to get at bats. He was probably going to stay in Portland. Meyer went up. Meyer's going to play short. Grissom's going to play second. Roman Anthony's in center field. You're not going to move a guy like Christian Campbell up unless there's an opportunity for him to hit. Maybe it is kind of a kick in the ass to Meyer. It's like, hey, you've been on the injured list every single year of your professional career. There's a guy coming up right behind you. Just to keep it in mind. Keep it in mind a little bit.
I mean, to me, kid 6'3", 22 years old, 6'3", 191. They got him listed as the second baseman. You're right. I thought he had played some time at short,
No,
too.
but he has played time at short.
So at AA, it was earlier in the year they bumped him up. Oh, no, hold on. I want to get this right, Jimmy, so give me a second. He's been there 2 months, basically. He's played 56 games. He started the year in high A, and all of a sudden he's in AAA. So that's a big jump. Like, the fact that they promoted him to AAA already is interesting. And maybe it does relate to Meyer.
Keep an eye on it, Mazz. I'm telling you.
He had 362 in AA. This kid raked.
Tore it up.
Raked.
They're talking about him. It's not the big three. It's the Fantastic Four.
Matt, thank you for hanging around.
Anytime, Mazz.
Very much appreciated. McCarthy's got your headlines here in a little bit. Jimmy, there's a break first before headlines or no?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, there's a break. Then McCarthy will get you caught up on headlines. Joe Murray